This is a follow-up to the homeless, mentally challenged individual that took a nap broke into a person's home in Portland, took a nap on their 10-year-old bed, and then threw an ottoman at the homeowner. We've got all this stuff going on, and she had a bunch of things going on before that. She was up on some other charges. They let her out on that one. Now she's up on new charges, and it looks like the city of Portland just can't figure out what to do with their homeless population that just can't manage reality. That's what we're talking about today. This is a follow-up. We've got new information. We've got new stuff to talk about. Let's jump on into it. Portland woman arrested on new charges after being caught on video sleeping in child's bed. I'm going to play that video. For those of you who didn't see my previous podcast, I'm going to play that video. So if you want to skip the next, what are we going to skip? Next minute 45, do so. That's no problem. You've seen it before, but this is some crazy footage. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, that just every time I see it, I've seen that probably a dozen times. It's just you just got nut jobs walking around. A woman is back in Multnomah County Jail after she was arrested Monday night on charges of theft. All right, we got theft, disorderly conduct, and furnishing false information to the police. Now, you didn't give them a wrong name, did you? Terri Zinzer, also known with Zinser with an S. Portland police say 54-year-old Terri Zinzer, also noted in court records as Zinser with an S, was harassing several people near Southeast 113th Avenue and Powell Boulevard. Witnesses at the Daily Planet Bar and Lounge said Zinser was harassing customers and trying to break into vehicles before stealing things from a 7-Eleven store next door. This woman just goes out and does whatever she wants. I was talking earlier today on a premiere about a gentleman that was throwing poop at business patrons. It was just, gross. And it was when the homeless population have rights that are greater than the tax-paying citizens, that's when this whole equation goes tilt. And that's literally where we're at right now, because this woman did what we saw earlier. And just prior to that on video, she had urinated on one of the porches next to the home that she broke into. And then she went and tried to break into another home. This woman is wildly out of control. She's clearly insane. And I don't know if she's on drugs. Who knows? Maybe it's a combo. But when these individuals have greater rights to be free than the rest of the population, paying all the bills for these people, that's where it's not reasonable. That's where I'm a hard no-go. Need to put these people somewhere they can get their head checked out. Unfortunately, we closed down all the institutions and we just, rattled all the cages and let people go, both from institutions, mental institutions, and prisons. And we're not really set up to do much of that anymore, right? She was due to be arraigned Tuesday afternoon, but didn't appear in court because the Multnomah County District Attorney changed her charges to no complaint. All right. So that could have happened for any number of reasons, right? But if you're one of these folks that have been impacted by this woman's behavior, maybe the 7-Eleven owner, maybe the person that had their front porch urinated on, maybe the woman who had, this woman broke into her house and took a nap on the bed. I mean, this person needs to be somewhere other than general society because she is clearly not living within the rules, right? She's just out on her own, doing her own thing, and she is nutso. We asked the district attorney's office about this, but they said no one was available for an interview and that they would get back to us. Now, when I podcasted this, I don't know, was it last week sometime? The issue is, hey, general population of Portland is saying, why isn't this woman either in jail or somewhere where she can get the mental help that she needs? So at that point in time, the charges were being reviewed already for the incident you just saw on video, right? And the reason I'm dedicating a full podcast to this is because this is the ongoing situation that so many people are faced with in cities that have allowed this to happen. And here you are. Now, for the rest of us who say, yeah, I don't want to live in that kind of environment, and I personally don't. I live in a city that's adjacent to Seattle, but I live in a city that doesn't allow this stuff to go on like Portland does. Doesn't allow this stuff to go on like Seattle does. But Seattle's really cranked down on the homeless population. And I don't know if it's a situation where, people are just being shuffled around or people are actually leaving Seattle. It could be. I'm not really sure. I'm out and about fairly often. I'm going to be at an Iron Maiden show a couple of nights from now. Actually, no, tomorrow night. Iron Maiden on a Thursday night. That's tricky. But, we're adults, so we don't go ham anymore. We don't just really get after it. We kind of stand and watch the show and enjoy things, right? Because Friday morning gets tough otherwise. Zinser is still in custody at the Multnomah County Jail for a county hold out of 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐿 County related to an attempted robbery charge in Oregon City. All right. So we've got a robbery charge. We've got basically a breaking and entering. We've got a sleeping on somebody's bed. We've got the Goldilocks charges, the three bears. We've got trying to break into the neighbor's house. We've got those charges. We've got theft, disorderly conduct, and furnishing false information to police. So Zinser's previous arrest, she's got multiple arrests, as do most of these folks, right? They just do. Now, people want to say, Sean, you're being too harsh on the homeless population. I don't think so. I think the homeless population, literally at this point in time, in many of these cities, have greater rights than the tax-paying citizens. Because tax-paying citizens have a right not to have people breaking into their homes, right? It's called law and order. It's called public safety. But we've allowed things to get so out of control that you've got this kind of nonsense going on. Zinser's previous arrest sparked outrage when the Multnomah County District Attorney Office said it was not charging her due to lack of mental health resources, and soon after, she was released. We talk about this fairly often. Talk about the guy who threw the woman down the stairs at the King Street station in Seattle and who basically assaulted and almost killed, 3 different people within about a 13-hour time period. He's being held in King County Jail, and I think he gets out October the 2nd, and he's going to be able to get into a mental institution or someplace where they can check him out mentally. Because the judge was like, I'm not sure if this guy can stand trial. I'm not sure if he's good enough mentally to be standing trial. I don't know if he understands the charge. The guy's out of his mind. I mean, no sane person does what that guy did. And yet we're paying him $250 a day because his due process is being violated. So you've got this situation where you got these nut jobs running around out there. And then when you do try and address them with the measures that we have, which is get them in somewhere to get them the help they need or put them in jail. That who knows if that guy would do okay in the general population in jail. We just don't know. The whole thing is just so convoluted. And at that point in time, you can't really worry about the inmate because the inmate's already proven, hey, they threw somebody down the stairs. They whacked somebody in the head with a club. I can't remember what else he did. He just, beat a bunch of people up. And this woman has how many charges against her? And yet she's still out roaming around doing this kind of crazy stuff. And, the district attorney's office is saying they lack of mental health resources. We just don't have the measure. Here in King County, our mayor just put together a package to, I think it was like $1.25 billion package. It's going to cost the average homeowner in King County about $121 a year in extra real estate taxes. It's going to be $115 million over 10 years, $1.25 billion, something like that. I know my math is off there, but it's something like that. $1.25 billion to address those that need mental health resources. And I'm kind of like, didn't we have that before? And we gave it all up because somebody thought that, it was a terrible idea and people were being unjustly treated. Well, now the general public is being unjustly treated. And yet cat's out of the bag, right? So how do we retool the whole mental health resources? Well, you try and tax the general population. And how many hundreds of millions have we already spent? How much has Oregon spent? And here you are with a woman with who knows how many outstanding charges she's got going. Clearly insane. Clearly, to what capacity? I don't know. Leave that up to the mental health care specialist, right? So, one of the highlights here is District Attorney's Office says case of stranger climbing into 10-year-old's bed is under review. Meanwhile, she's out racking up charges after charges after charges. A Portland homeowner said Zinser walked into her house. We talked about that. The boy was not home at the time. Good thing. I mean, how would that have gone? Hey, Mom, somebody just climbed in bed with me. I think she's homeless. Yeah, literally. So, the district attorney's office later told 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐬 the case was under review. And at that point in time, I would ask, which case? The one in Oregon City, the one in Multnomah County, and 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐿 County? Which one? Because this lady is just out there doing work. And by that, I mean, one lawless event after another. And it comes down to, you got to start dropping the hammer on some of these folks, because this has literally gotten out of control. And people want to say, okay, but then you just move out of Portland. All right. That's not as easy as everybody thinks, right? And not everybody wants to move out of Portland. Not everybody wants to move out of Seattle. And so then you're like, okay, well, then you get what you pay for. That is true. That is true. But there are, believe it or not, there are even reasonable people in Portland and in Seattle. And that's what they're kind of working with. And they deserve to have their taxpayers' dollars go towards taking care of this kind of scenario. But because of the way the laws are set up right now, and public safety is set up right now, you can make a strong argument that, hey, maybe you don't want to live there. Maybe that's what's going to send the message. Maybe you don't want to run a business in that environment. Maybe that's going to send the message to your politicians. I don't know what's going to send the message, because the message is getting through loud and clear. And the way you can tell that is by how often these entities, the district attorney's office, the mayor, the governor, everybody just basically ignores the scenario because they know how bad it is. They know this woman's out there doing this stuff, and they're like, good Lord, but where do we put her? We shut all the mental institutions down. Where do we put her? That's literally what they're battling. Does she belong in jail? I say so. If she's breaking the law, put her in jail, let her cool her jets, whether she's insane or not. You got to put her somewhere, and you got to put her somewhere where she's not impacting the rights of the general public who are paying the taxes and paying the bills for all this stuff. That's just where you got to be. But then, the powers that are in place in these cities are like, oh, no. We need to just let her wander around because she's not really hurting any. No, she's wreaking havoc. And so many businesses are closing down because of this kind of stuff. So I wanted to do the complete follow-up on this one, because this is exemplifying exactly what's going on with these people from the homeless population, people from the community that are doing this crazy stuff. And you hear about it, but unless you do a deep dive into it and look at it and understand some of the storylines, you just won't believe what you're hearing. You always kind of think, well, that's like an urban legend. It's an urban legend. They didn't let her out after she did all that. Oh, yes, they did. They did let her out. And that's why you've got so many of these folks who are just rummaging around, roaming around, causing havoc, doing crazy stuff because they don't know oftentimes what they're doing. I think they probably know it's wrong, but they're whacked out. They're just not, they're not there mentally like you and I are, because we're reasonable. So this, the solution to this, you got to get to these people some of the mental health care that they need, that they should be getting. And yet we've failed them miserably. And leadership in these cities has failed them miserably. Because you go to other cities, you don't see this kind of stuff. So what's up with that? Answer me that. What do you got going there? All right. So we know it's not, across the board. It's in cities that have allowed this to take place. Hey, we're just going to let them live wherever they want. Let them basically do whatever they want. We'll bring them food. We'll bring them a tent. We'll give them clean needles. We'll bring in a dentist every now and then. We've got services, wraparound services. We're basically just going to bring society to them in their tented homeless encampments. And then we wonder why we have issues with people like this woman just doing her thing, because she's able to live quite comfortably and do all this. You saw the clothes she's wearing. She's not hurting for clothes. They even look fairly clean, right? And this woman is walking into a stranger's house and sleeping on the kid's bed. Wild times we live in, right? Wild times we live in. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.